Crank it up, let it roll. Stars and stripes in my soul. Steel toes on, boots in the gravel. Heartland truth on every channel. Open Bible, flag on the wall. We say what we believe when we don't talk it off. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. we're still talking loud. Hand of the free on every spell. Hit that mic, host, let the truth ring out. This is red, white, and raised hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to a rail, from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raised hell.
Screen. I should be on the screen. There, now I'm on the screen. Raising hell off. Good morning, everybody. Red, white, and raised hell, of course. What's happening today, yesterday? Wild. Pair of kings in the White House. A bad hand, actually, if you can get it, especially if you get it in the pocket. Pair of kings, and the left, they didn't know what to do. They didn't know, because, King Charles. Oh, it's weird, actually, because what I could say is King Charles, like much of, British leadership, both governmental and royal, left of center, to say the least. Putting on a show, did a great job of that yesterday. They put on a show. He gifted President Trump with a really cool, relic and all the rest, which is fine. Sorry, I'm just double checking a couple of things here. Dylan is out again today, but King Charles there, doing his thing a little bit. The left probably didn't know what to do, because here's a king that they kind of are okay with, yet they're the no kings crowd. They're the no kings, organization. We don't like kings. But then the flip of that, this is the second part of it. The flip side of that is that. Most of these lunatics hate America, so they're probably not really wanting to celebrate, America's independence from that other king over there. They hate kings, but they would rather probably be under a king. Just if you were to poll left-wing Democrats today, what do you think the survey would show? If you were to ask them, would you prefer to be governed by a king like King Charles? Almost called him Prince Charles. That's what we've known him for most of our lives, going back to the wedding with Di and all the rest. But if you were to poll mainstream Democrats or just Democrats, period, and ask them, would you prefer to live under the leadership of Donald J. Trump, the guy that you call a king, or actual King Charles? What do you think these loons would say? Guarantee you 90 to 10, 9-1. They would say, I'd rather live under King Charles. Right? I mean, I could be wrong. I don't think so, though. I mean, the reality is these people, I've said this yesterday. I said this on Monday when we were kind of rehashing and telling the story of the sorry, I'm just trying to get something live here. Okay, this is ADHD kicking in here. I'm trying to do two or three things at once. But on Monday, when I was talking about the assassination attempt on Saturday night, these people, they don't just think Donald Trump is the worst president ever. They think he's the worst person ever, right? I mean, we go back to Genghis Khan. We can go back and list all of the butchers throughout history, all of the tyrants throughout history, all of the emperors throughout history, all of the totalitarian societies and their leaders throughout history. They think Donald Trump is worse than all of them. I said it before. They think Trump is worse than Judas. Those who believe in Jesus at all. Point being, I bet they would rather live under Prince or King Charles. I keep wanting to say Prince. There's that habit again. What do you think? I think probably 90% of them would say, yep, that's what we'd rather have. The No Kings protesters would tear up their No King signs if they had a chance of replacing Donald Trump with King Charles. Tell me I'm wrong. But that was quite an experience yesterday. First time a state dinner has been held for the royal leader of the UK of Great Britain since George H.W. Bush, I think it was H.W. Bush, welcomed Queen Elizabeth back in the day, back in the late 1980s, early 1990s, whenever that was. So it was really, kind of an interesting moment there, because King Charles said a few things that he had to say, not necessarily in full agreement with the Iran war and the way things are being done, blah, 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 but reaffirming the great partnership that we have between these two nations. And I'll say this, though, just super quick, because I don't want to dwell on this too much. I have a lot of other important things to get to. But sorry, just getting a message that I had to respond to. But where was I going with that? The other element of other things to get to, including Comey, which I'll jump on here in a second. But just with respect to President Trump and King Charles reaffirming the partnership between these two nations, inseparable bond, blah, blah, blah. We don't want to be too much like the UK. We don't want to be too much like England specifically, or the UK more broadly, because they have been invaded. They have pretty much fallen. I got to get Mark Sutherland back on. Mark Sutherland is a commentator and a filmmaker in the UK, and I've had him on. We did a full hour together last year at some point from the UK. A friend of Patrick Wood, my buddy from Citizens for Free Speech. Anyway, I got to get Mark back on, because he will tell you exactly how far the UK has fallen. I bet. You know what I bet? Watch this. Because what time is it there? 7 hours ahead, right? So it's roughly 12 p.m. in the UK. I'm going to do something here. Watch this. I'm going to send on a whim, because I'm just riffing here, like I said, as ADHD kind of makes me want to do sometimes. I am going to send the link to join this show to Mark Sutherland. Hey, Mark, if you are free to come on right now, click that link and give me your thoughts on the King and his meeting with President Trump yesterday, the state dinner, etc., period. Perhaps you can tell my audience how far the UK has fallen, period, and how it has been overtaken, period. All right. I'm just sending that on an encrypted signal message to my friend Mark Sutherland from the UK, and we'll see if he responds to this. I would not be surprised to see a little alert come onto my screen here in just a moment, telling me that he's there. I haven't talked to him in a long time. Actually, last month I did it just in a signal chat last month, very briefly, but I haven't talked to him in to any extent for quite some time. But he would tell you a story about why we don't want to be too, buddy, brothers in arms, et cetera, with the UK, because that country has fallen to Islamic. They've been taken over essentially by Islamic radicals. There's no denying it. There's no borders. There's no pushback. The UK has fallen also insofar as their willingness to allow the people to speak freely. People who post the wrong things on Facebook in England go to prison. People literally, seriously, they're getting prison sentences for posts. It's really, really dangerous stuff over there now. The UK is just a different kind of a place. It's and this is all relatively recent in the last few years. All right, he's texting back to me. I'll let you know what he has to say. But I just think since the King was here yesterday, in fact, may still be there this morning. I don't know exactly what the agenda is. It's interesting. The No Kings folks would absolutely say, yes, King, please, King me. They would checkers their way through it and say, King me, if they had a chance to get Charles over Trump with full-on King authority. They would rather do that. Mark says, give me 6 minutes and I'll try to get on. You should have known. Well, the fact that it is only 2:00 there, it's not like it's overnight. And I made a wake up call in the middle of the night. So it'll be cool. We'll see if he hops on here. All right. In between now and then, good morning to all of our chatters. You guys are always amazing. Thank you. Except, by the way, those of you who don't hit the like button. Yesterday, I popped in on just a random time on the show. I think Peter was talking, and I looked and it said 161 people in the chat, and 43, I think, had hit the like button at that point in time. We need everybody who comes in to watch live to hit that thumbs up button and hit that bell notification button, because that is the only way that you're going to help us reach the algorithms to help us grow. What is Charlie saying in the early going here? The leftist no borders idea equals no citizenship, which equals a return to subject feudalism. Good morning to the West Sider. Good morning to Joanne. Let's keep charging the left for lies they perpetrated years ago and now. I don't disagree with that at all. What else are people getting into here? I hope they shackle his ass like Bannon and raid his house at 4 a.m. like they did Roger Stone. Talking about James Comey, which of course is the lead story of the morning. That's my graphic that I put together for this morning. There it is. James Comey. He tried 8647. He gets FAFO. He is in the FO phase right now. Charged, indicted, charged, and a warrant issued for his arrest. That's where James Comey is right now. Let's get that off the screen there. And then a little nod to Tom Renz, who's going to be joining me here at the top of the next hour. Tom is going to be with me on stage tomorrow, along with Judge Lanziger, and we are going to be in Strongsville for a stroll down Nightmare Lane, which is we're going to relive what happened to the state of Ohio during COVID and the reign of terror of Amy Acton, which is what it was. And you can say, well, she wasn't the governor. It's the reign of terror of Mike DeWine. And I'll say, okay, deal. You're right, it was. But he gifted her with power. And then she took it and ran with it and ran this state into the freaking ground. Now she wants to be our governor. So tomorrow on stage, Tom and Judge Lanziger and I will be kind of having a panel discussion and answering your questions. If you have not yet RSVP'd, go to the Strongsville GOP page, strongsvillegop.org, I think, and get your tickets are free. It's a free event, but you got to RSVP to be there, because we don't want to fill the hall with a bunch of hecklers and idiots. So anyway, point being, Comey. I guess I can take that off the stage now. Or off the screen now. No, not that way. Mark, I'll get to you in a little bit, fella. That one too. I'll get to you too. All right. We're working it through. Dylan is off again today, so we're working our way through it, everybody. James Comey is in the find out phase, and I want you to watch this now. This is, if I can pull it up on the screen, look at that. First try on that one anyway. This is Ellis Boyle, the acting U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of North Carolina, describing why James Comey is now under federal indictment, and there is an arrest warrant issued for him. He is facing 20 years in prison. Watch.
In the Eastern District of North Carolina, returned a true bill indicting Mr. James Comey with committing 2 felonies. Count 1, he knowingly and willfully made a threat to kill and to inflict bodily harm upon the President of the United States in violation of 18 U.S.C. 871A. Count 2, he knowingly and willfully transmitted in interstate and foreign commerce a communication that contained a threat to kill President Trump in violation of 18 U.S.C. 875C. Mr. Comey will be given every form of due process all citizens are entitled to receive, to include a trial by a jury of his peers. In the Eastern District of North Carolina, it doesn't matter who you are. We take all threat cases seriously and prosecute anyone who violates federal law, regardless of title or status.
All right. So that's the list of charges as explained by Ellis Boyle, the acting U.S. attorney there. How about acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, making it crystal clear to everybody? This is how it works.
I think it's fair to say that threatening the life of anybody is dangerous and potentially a crime. Threatening the life of the President of the United States will never be tolerated by the Department of Justice.
Threatening the life of the President of the United States. And yes, it was exactly that. It was not anything less than that. They try to make it, you remember, we don't have to go through Comey's ridiculous interviews that he did after that, and his commentary on social media. I just found that. I didn't make that shell formation that spelled out 8647. I didn't do that. What are you talking about? I found it, and then I took a picture of it, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. And I posted it on my social media because we post pictures of our food and we post pictures of where we are and everything we do. What's wrong with seeing a natural shell formation that seems to have spelled out 8647? I thought maybe it's a weird political message, but I didn't know what it was. I had never heard of 86 before. 86? What do you mean? Oh, 86? I don't know what you're talking. He tried to sell that ish to us for I don't even know how long. And it was unbelievable that people bought it because that people on the left, they agreed with it. People on the left make it very, very clear. Yeah, they want an 86 Trump. And we all know what the 86, the code 86 means. It means 8 miles out and 6 feet under. It's a very well-known common phrase that when you want to get rid of somebody like the mafia, get rid of a body, 86 them. Take them 8 miles out and bury them 6 feet under so nobody can find them. That's what it means to get rid of something or someone. And of course, it means in the worst possible way. It means kill them. So Comey posted that, got away with it for about a year. I don't know exactly when the original thing was posted, but now the Attorney General, and by the way, kudos to President Trump for the upgrade in Attorney General, at least for the time being. I don't know if Todd Blanche is going to be the long-term guy. There are some who say that the acting Attorney General should not be the long-term guy. That Todd Blanche isn't much different or better than Pam Bondi. But I will tell you this, he's been on the job for what, 2 weeks? And at least suddenly, here we go. The cuffs are going to be slapped on to James Comey. And as Charlie said, I'll throw it back up here now. I hope they shackle his ass like they did Bannon and raid his house at 4 a.m. like they did Roger Stone. Politically incorrect mechanic, spot on, brother. Exactly right. I hope they do the same exact thing. This is what we voted for. Accountability, something we have not yet seen very much of, quite frankly. We have not seen enough people because Pam Bondi, I think I said it at the time. Let's go. She was the Attorney General in Florida, apparently did a very good job, so it's fine. But as time went by, it was like, let's go. We're waiting. There are a whole bunch of deep staters, a whole bunch of people like Clapper and Comey and Brennan and the rest of them that took part in the Arctic frost hoax, the Russia hoax, took part in, I'm sorry, that wasn't the Russia hoax. I'm mixing up my code names now. Arctic Frost was the second. But at any rate, the Russia hoax. Those who were responsible for that, we wanted to see these people getting perp walk, not to mention also those who were responsible and part of the Epstein Island atrocities. We wanted to see some action, and we got very, very little action from Attorney General Pam Bondi. Here we are 2 weeks into Todd Blanche as acting AG, and James Comey is going to be wearing the bracelets. So that's a great sign. And so kudos to President Trump for making the hard decision to pull Bondi out from a job that she just seemed really woefully underqualified for and putting Todd Blanche in there. We'll see if he works out or whether there's going to be another long-term solution for that position. But obviously, it's a good start for him, for President Trump. So there you go. We had that. And then the other huge story we're getting into this morning, or going to get into, how about this? This should make everybody who came to our ICE appreciation event in March smile. The Leering Center. The FBI raided the Leering Center, the Quality Leering Center, yesterday, along with 20 other locations. Fraud in Minnesota, the massive amount of fraud in Minnesota that we had all been tracking and that Nick Shirley was responsible for exposing. Suddenly, some accountability is happening, which again is, I don't know if it would have happened necessarily under the last attorney general, but this is the FBI doing its thing. Kash Patel's job hasn't changed, and they are out there probably being very deliberate before they go and bringing any charges. But the investigations, the arrests have not been made, but the investigations and the raids have been launched, which is phenomenal. What's not so phenomenal, though, is that Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, is trying to take credit for it. Tim Walz, I'm going to read this to you. In fact, let me show this to you. Here's what Tim Walz said on X. Where'd he go? Yeah, on X. If you commit, can you see? Let me make sure everybody's seeing the same thing I'm seeing there. Yeah, it's not large, but you can hopefully make it out. I'll make it a little larger. Tim Walz yesterday, if you commit fraud in Minnesota, you're going to get caught. And that's exactly what we saw today. We catch criminals when state and federal agencies share information. Joint investigations work, and securing justice depends on it. Now, this makes me want to throat punch him, because joint federal and state investigations would involve federal officers like ICE agents and Border Patrol agents getting the support of Minnesota and Minneapolis-St. Paul officers in order to find illegal aliens, especially the criminal, dangerous illegal aliens, and remove them from Minnesota and the country. Don't tell me you support this state and federal cooperation when you literally are trying to stop the federal government from doing the job that has been entrusted to them, which is the enforcement of law. He went on to say, today's raids by state and federal law enforcement happened because our state agencies caught irregular behavior and reported it. Really? Your state agencies did that. Your state agencies. No, you stupid son of a Democrat. Nick Shirley found that. You and your agencies knew about that and looked the other way because these were your people. These fraudsters stealing the federal taxpayer dollars from the American people. You knew about it because your people were getting the kickbacks from it. That's how the system is supposed to work, he wrote, and our agencies will keep at it for as long as there are fraudsters around to put behind bars. Okay. I want to point something out here for you. This is also Tim Walz from 5 months ago. In December, Tim Walz, there's no evidence of fraud in billions, despite all of the allegations and all of the expose done by Nick Shirley and others, but primarily by Nick Shirley. Well, this part is, and hopefully there won't be an ad queued up here because I already watched the ad before the show started. Let's see if it hangs in there. But this is a Fox News report on the response of FBI Director Kash Patel to Governor Tampon Tim Walz trying to take credit for the raid and the bust on the phony daycare centers in Minneapolis yesterday. So let's see if this works. All right.
Federal fraud currently underway. Federal agents seen leaving the Quality Learning Center. And Brooke Taylor has more on that and what they're looking for. Brooke, good morning.
Hi, Bill. Good morning. Yeah, we have had a photographer there at the daycare since this morning, capturing video of those federal agents just going in and out of the building, collecting evidence as part of the DOJ's fraud investigation in Minnesota. Take a look at this video here. Sources tell Fox that federal agents are raiding about 22 businesses across Minneapolis this morning. And sources say many of them are tied to Somali-owned operations. All of this comes after that viral YouTube video from Nick Shirley. It was back in December. In that video, he visited different child care centers. And you'll remember they were either closed or there were just no children inside, despite receiving state child care funding. Now, the location that you're looking at right now, it's the Quality Learning Center. This is the daycare. It went viral. It blew up on social media because of a sign outside with learning that was literally misspelled. The education secretary at the time claimed that the daycare received $1.9 million while, quote, masquerading as a daycare. And then shortly after that, the Trump administration announced it was freezing child care funding to Minnesota and calling for a full audit of certain daycare centers. And just checking my emails now, it looks like we got a statement from DHS sharing, quote, Homeland Security investigations in cooperation with our law enforcement partners executed criminal search warrants in Minneapolis relating to the rampant fraud of U.S. taxpayers' dollars.
So all done by federal agents, all by Kash Patel's FBI, and there's Tampon Tim taking credit for it, which is what launched this response real quick from Kash Patel, the FBI director. Come again? This FBI and DOJ with our DHS partners drafted and executed every search warrant today. But go ahead and take credit for our work while we smoke out the fraud plaguing Minnesota under your governorship. He, of course, is exactly right. As I pointed out, literally just 5 months ago, and in fact, probably 2 months ago, Tampon Tim was just declaring the fraud in Minnesota completely made up. It's a conspiracy. It's a right-wing conspiracy. It's, this Nick Shirley independent. Do you know what they did since then? Nick Shirley took the fraud that he exposed in Minnesota and went to California and found that it's even worse there. And you know what they did in California? We talked about this about a week or so ago. They introduced a new bill in California, the Assembly did there, to criminalize investigative reporters from reporting what they find. Criminalize, taking away freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom of expression from people like Nick Shirley. They called it the Stop Nick Shirley Act because he's exposing stuff. And now Tim Walz wants credit for, quote unquote, exposing what happened in Minneapolis, St. Paul. This is our state agencies found this fraud and exposed it. And boy, a buck stops with me. I'll tell you, buddy. Holy cow, the chutzpah, the koulians on that guy. Unbelievable. All right. I am looking in my green room right now, and you know what I see there? I see a familiar face, a friendly face, who just on a whim, I wondered if he would actually respond on just a moment's notice here as we looked at what happened yesterday. And let me go ahead and pop this on the screen to introduce the story. Yeah, here he is. Let's listen to the King of England, King Charles III, here for just a moment.
And may I also just start by paying tribute to your own courage and steadfastness, as well as to your security services, for their swift actions on Saturday evening in preventing further injury. My thoughts and sympathies are very much with you, the First Lady, and all those guests for whom this must have been a very upsetting incident.
The left hates that. The left hates that. King Charles coming over here and praising Donald Trump. In fact, what they're probably saying right now, or probably thinking about, is one king praising another. No kings, no kings. Anyway, I saw the story. Obviously, we've been following the news. I said, I'm just going to, on a whim, reach out to Mark Sutherland to see if our favorite British commentator and filmmaker might be available for a quick hit with us. And he answered the call. Mark Sutherland is with us now from England. There he is. Mark, good morning. Mark, we're getting a feedback. Can you turn your speaker there way down?
I'm gonna try and do that. I'll try and do that. Hopefully you'll come. I'll turn this off so you come through the.
Yeah, that might help a lot.
Can you hear me?
How are you, my friend?
Hear me?
I hear you just fine. Can you hear me all right, Mark?
Yeah. I'm actually not in the UK. I'm actually in the in your great country. So
are you
I'm
still
actually
in
speaking
Indiana?
from this side of the pond. So I've been over here for a few weeks. I will be here for a few weeks more as I'm producing one documentary, potentially another. So we're just say that. So thank you so much for inviting me on at, well, where do we start? I think a good place to start, my friend, is to define subjects and citizens. So back in the UK, Charlie Boy the Third, we always seem to have problems with our King Charles, as you fully know. So this year is a very important anniversary for you, which is the 250th anniversary of establishing your great republic. So after the little war that we had, and then you ratifying your constitution in 1787. And these are important dates, because between the end of hostilities, the build up to those hostilities, we remember, of course, the Boston Tea going in. We do not want taxation without representation. Well, Bob, that is a familiar sound that needs to be done now in London, and people should be pouring tea from various supermarkets into the Thames as English. Charles, of course, would call us subjects. The Labour Fabian government would call us.
He mentioned that yesterday, by the way, at the dinner last night. Did you hear that remark? King Charles actually said something about what a glorious meal this was, much better than that whole Tea Party thing.
Sorry, I didn't, Bob, I didn't quite hear that last bit. Can you just say that again?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's a bit low, so I'm going to get in and hopefully I can hear you, but go on. Sorry.
Okay. Well, no, I was just referencing, you mentioned the tea. Dumping the tea is what the UK needs to do now. King Charles last night at the dinner, after the dinner, and when he spoke, he was commending the quality of the meal, and he said it was much better than that whole Tea Party thing that you guys once threw. So he was being very, very funny and flippant a little bit about it. And but the reason. One of the primary reasons, Mark, why I wanted to reach out to you, and by the way, I had no idea you were still in the States. I thought you were going to be here just for that first week of April when you asked me if I could come to Indiana. I didn't know you were going to be here that long. Yeah. But the reason I thought of you, and even when I thought I was connecting with you back home, is because what I mentioned, with respect to the diplomatic event last night, the state dinner, and so on and so forth, is it's wonderful that we still celebrate our partnership and our friendship with the UK, but it is not something that we want to emulate. We don't want to be like the UK right now, because as you have said many times, and I have observed as well, the UK has basically fallen. It is being invaded unlike ever before. And rights, civil rights, if you will, that may have been granted to England, to the English, and to all of the United Kingdom, are gone now. Because if you post the wrong thing on social media in the UK, you can be put in prison. Not just, maybe have your account temporarily suspended, they will lock you up. So my point being, boy, oh boy, the United States may still be tight friends and partners with the UK, but we certainly don't want to be like the UK. We don't want to fall as far as the UK has. That's what I want you to tell our audience.
No, Bob, thank you. And remember, and also to just remind your amazing audience, is the fact that recently Macron from France, the excuse of a leader there, came over to a state banquet, and then Charles also then gave a speech and talked about irregular migration as a phrase that he used that sent the rest of us who disagree with this into an apoplectic rage. You are absolutely right that we are dealing with 30 to 33 knocks on the door because people, the authorities, are then objecting to what is being put on social media, etc. And in fact, as I've spoken to someone over here who shall be nameless, that had to basically leave the country, relocate to then kickstart their career again because of the whole thing of political correctness, DEI, the fact the whole transgender and protecting female spaces, quite rightly, agenda. But when you say to me, Bob, the UK has fallen, there's a number of other friends that have said that to me over the last year. And at times, I'll be honest and say to you, that's a very, very uncomfortable thing to listen to and come to the conclusion of. And when we have a government that basically is full of Fabians, we don't have time for a big history lesson. But this is what's really important. And I had, and I'll just throw this in, I had met with a friend of mine, which is Alex Newman, who you will be very, very aware of. And Alex is, and I'm privileged to say that, And Alex, the New American is going to be republishing the book that they published many years ago about the Fabian Society, e.g. how history is rewritten, how our establishment has rewritten things and not revealed things to, or how things are portrayed, Bob, to people in the UK. And we're trying to catch up fast to that. But no, we are not in a good place whatsoever, because you and I think we've maybe discussed this, but we're coming up to an important 10th anniversary. So on 2016, 23rd of June, if my memory serves me correct, we then voted to leave the EU. We were taken into the common market in 1973. It was in a conservative, inverted commas, in name only. They would have been called WETs or Republican in name only, if we're honest. So that kind of link. So we were taken in, and the EU it's then morphed into the United States of Europe without the United States Constitution, without the protection, bluntly, of free speech, and that, in my humble opinion. So we're coming up to 2026. As soon as we voted to leave the EU, and we haven't, as far as I'm concerned, I would say some people, and some of those are contacts of mine, would say, yes, we have left, and then would turn around and say, no, we haven't, because the government then, the establishment, the civil service, have done whatever they can to make sure that we haven't, and dragged our feet. And this is what we are dealing with. Whatever people think about the war in Iran, and people have a variety of different opinions. Personally, I think the regime has to be removed. There was a long discussion of that. E.g., when America has wanted to count on its NATO allies, frankly, where the heck were they? And in regard to speaking out of both sides of their mouth, and as President Trump has said for for a number of years, particularly said this in his first administration, you know, it's costing us money. We're shutting out for you. We are financing NATO, and of course we go through the Cold War and all the rest. All those statements, absolutely true. When you then need support, we can't even get a ship into the water properly. The HMS Dragon, or we're dragging it out. We then discover as a nation that we don't have 24 ships in the Navy, which is nothing. We might just about have 17. We have got our military, etc., has been depleted. It has been run down for a long period of time. And coming back to the EU, this whole thing of creating a European army. But Bob, I'll come back to this. The fact is that this present Prime Minister, who I didn't vote for, did whatever he could. He was then the European minister. As soon as we voted to leave, he was doing whatever he could to then have a second vote and to get us back into Europe. He is a technocrat, period. He's never had a proper job in his life, as far as I'm concerned, and has been inside as he would call it, about international law, as an international lawyer. The other thing about him that many of us have then discovered, that he has not he's not really addressed a jury in his profession. So serious, as in you're giving a background to an individual. But Bob, they want us back into the European Union. They've already passed laws where they're not discussing that. You are a representative constitutional republic with alienable rights. We are then coming under that whole thing of a democracy, which is mob rule according to your constitution, and I agree with you. The other thing is, I will urge all of America to please participate in your system. Please participate. That's how it's done. You cannot just leave it to a president in the White House. What I know of, especially looking at the whole transgender issue, and then looking at what's happening in various states in America, people really need to wake up to what's going on and participate on the state level and in your legislature. And here am I, as someone from the UK, saying this, but I think and having the privilege to say it here on your show. But this is what I would also, that's the biggest lesson I would say to you. you forget about anything I said, please take lessons, but please participate. But the blunt answer is this as well, Bob, is that, of course, President Trump family come from Scotland. He's got business interests, golf courses over in the UK, and he has always viewed our nation with fondness because of history. Like many Americans, I don't have to give any education in regard to people's heritage, whether that's from my particular country or whether that's other parts of Europe. Absolutely, I've had a number of those conversations through friends here where we're reminding ourselves of heritage, and those things are important. So, of course, the other major issue is this, Bob. We've just had we appointed Peter Mandelson as ambassador to Washington from the UK. He should never have been appointed whatsoever. We are fully now people. There was a push for him to do that. There was a push from this is why it's such a row at home, and an argument is saying, well, there was seemed to be a push on a regular basis virtually every day to say, will you hurry up and vet Mandelson so he can then become the ambassador in Washington. They wanted him out there because they thought he could flatter President Trump and all the rest. Well, Peter Mandelson has then the whole thing of alleging him with unfortunate relationships with Jeffrey Epstein has then come up. There are other just, you may not be aware of this, but under the Tony Blair government, Peter Mandelson was kicked out of cabinet twice because of questions over a mortgage that he then had and how we then borrowed that money from another individual government level, and also then seeking passports for to Indian businessmen who would then abuse his position. But more importantly, it's the fact that he sat at the cabinet table. He was then privy at the time of all the banking collapse, 2008-9, and
Right.
he was then privy to information that he may have used in the alleged allegation, that he could have passed that on, and he could have passed that on allegedly to people like Jeffrey Epstein. That is all then playing out at home at the moment, Bob. And this is how the debt goes. And
that's
how
all
serious
really
Sorry,
important stuff. That's all right. Yeah, I want to get in because I've only got a few minutes left because I've got another guest coming at 8 o'clock. But I want to kind of maybe ask you to tell our audience what similarities you see from some of that which is plaguing the UK right now here in the United States. As you know, President Trump's political opposition is motivated like never before to stop him from doing anything, pretty much, or everything. They want, and we saw for 4 years prior to President Trump coming back, we saw a massive invasion like we're seeing in the UK. And I guess what I'm saying is, and also the crackdown, on free speech. Do you see similarities here, especially since you've been here for about a month or so? Do you see similarities here, warning signs here that remind you of, your country that you are, that you still live in, but you're visiting here right now? But do you see similarities between what happened or has or is happening to the UK happening in the United States?
Bob, if I may say respectfully, and I was, of course, over here a number of times in regard to President Trump's first administration. Mm-hmm. Everyone thinks, oh, he's in. That's great. Well, on certain levels, yes, as a dear friend of mine, John Haller, says, is transactional. There are certain things that are good. There are certain things that deeply question. I am deeply concerned, Bob, how asleep I think people are. We've got through the pandemic. Yes, I added an L. And the fact that I'm concerned that people are then going really, really back to sleep. You do have an economy over here. I am seeing it because there are things being built. There are roads being repaired constantly. So I'm seeing that you do have an economy. I am then concerned about other issues. We have a huge thing in regard to data centers and all this kind of thing. We have to be very aware of what is going on. But I am concerned about complacency, Bob. Over here, most of the contacts and friends I have, they're not complacent. They are also shouting themselves hoarse in regard to trying to wake people up and bring the real news to what is going on. So if there is any lesson, and it's exactly like the same at home for me, even though there are many people greater than I who are fully awake to various things that are going on. They really are. That is the lesson that I would say to people here. You are a blessed nation. There's a lot of history to go through that, and of course, like any nation, we're not perfect, but we have in our nation, we have per sort of mile, we have virtually the same equivalent of the amount of cameras that China's had. I'm concerned about all the control systems that are being built here in the United States as well, Bob. We have to say this. This is not conspiratorial. I am concerned about companies like Palantir, people like Peter Thiel, the relationships that he then has. This may be uncomfortable to say, but other people over here greater than me have been are talking about this, for argument's sake, Alex Newman. So that, and then Pat Wood. And if you haven't had Pat Wood of Technocracy News on your show, then please, we need to arrange that.
Patrick and I are very good friends, and in fact, brilliant. that's how I met you. Patrick introduced.
Oh, of course, I do apologize, Bob. I do apologize. Of course, I got. There's so much going on. I apologize. That was the privilege I had of then being introduced to you. So this is real. That's my other concern. So in other words, there's that classic phrase of bait and switch. You have such a deep establishment now. Suddenly, you know, as you've just talked about, that there's a bracelet going on Comey's. There needs to be many others. We have people back at home that think, you know, wasn't President Obama a really nice man? Go through the history. Communism is real, and we need to all wake up to that. That's what we're facing in regard to the tyranny via the Fabian Society. So learn from that. You have got such a deep state over here. I don't have to give you a lecture on that. You've seen the lawfare on the 4 years between Trump 1 and now Trump 2. I am concerned about some of the people around him. There's still, you know, clear, and hear me. I'm very glad that he's there. I don't worship the ground he walks on. We shouldn't do. However, that's the whole point. People engage in your scoreboard, find out what's going on, and then go up from that point. Do not get, and I'm concerned that you're at this point. One of the issues that happened in our last election in 2024 was the amount of people that did not participate in the vote. You have got huge problems, of course, with your voting system. I won't name names. We don't want to be sued, but you are perfectly aware whether that's the hardware or whether that's the software. The fact that you need to have 1 day election, you know, everyone goes there with a paper ballot on 1 day, and that those counts are then started to be counted that night. If you can do that in other parts of the world without using any electronic systems whatsoever, that needs to happen. But that they have turned all of that, your constitutional republic, the laws, they are using that against you. And the other thing I would say, the big lesson is this: when you are talking about Islam is a political ideology. You address Islam, you address it as a body. You learn from people like Bill Federer and others, Bill Warner, Robert Spencer, Tony Gurley. You learn from a couple of those I've interviewed. You learn from people like wonderful Jamie Glazoff and the Glazoff gang. I will be on the show in a few days' time. You learn from all of that. You learn and you go through the history. You understand what happens at the gates of Vienna, the gates of Tours. You then go back to the Barbary Wars, and you go back to the then president turning around and saying, why are our ships being attacked? And the Barbary pilots then explaining why. And here's an interesting piece of history I didn't realize until recently, because it was addressed and say, you are no longer a protectorate under the British flag. You are a separate country. You are not under jizya. You are not paying a tax. Now, that was a bit of a revelation to me historically. So use history. use history, know your facts, use history,
Amen.
and then know one, and you address Islam as a political ideology. And where there is no separation there between church and state, that raises another interesting issue. The other thing is, if you are in a church where a pastor is not addressing any of the issues that I have talked about, you then personally, if I may say, you need to go and talk to him. You then need to draw their attention to what is going on. And after that, if they're still not listening, I would turn around and say, maybe you should leave that particular church. There are pastors in this country who are waking up,
100%.
and Liberty Pastors Group and others, but there are not enough, and that needs to accelerate. I am deeply concerned again of what is not spoken about in one of the most important meetings that happens in America. Some people say it's the most divisive day in regard to a Sunday where various people go, but it's not addressing the real issues, and that needs to be deeply questioned. And I reiterate this again, please, you have a border around you. You know what happened over the 4 years of the Biden, whether that was 11 million, as dear J.J. Carroll with his documentary talks about, could be 11 million, could be up to far more than that.
Yeah,
So,
probably closer to 20 million, actually.
Yeah.
Mark, it's a great summation and a great warning and great advice. And you're right about we need to get involved in our electoral process. And you're right, we need to fix our electoral process, single day voting, and everything else you just pointed out. But boy, we have a big fight in front of us because there is a significant portion of the population. Actually, it's not true. It's not even the population. 82 to 18 wants to pass the Save America Act, which does a lot of the things that you just talked about with respect to protecting our elections and our electoral system. But the Democrats that represent them completely in opposition, and they hold far too much power than they should, more than they should, and are getting in the way. But if we are to stop ourselves from falling and sliding down that path that your great country has kind of found itself on right now, we need to take heed from people like you. So I'm glad you came in. I appreciate it. How much longer?
You.
How much longer are you in the States? I thought you were only here for a few days in the beginning of
April. I'm going to be here for a few more weeks yet. So,
okay, we'll have to find a way to connect.
I'll just say that. And the other thing I'll just say, Bob, it's a real privilege to come on any platform, to be given an opportunity to speak. It's not something that I take for granted at all, and I'm very grateful for that. And I'm also grateful when I and other people far greater than me are then able to come over here and express an opinion. And I'm thinking of people like dear Tommy Robinson, who's just done a tour over here. This is real. Whatever people think, people think of us, the fact is we're all entitled to an opinion, and we're all entitled to express that. The important also thing is that we have forgotten the other side, and we also have to challenge ourselves on this. We've forgotten how to agree to disagree. And that is my concern as well, because that is the push, that they do not want any opinion that is uncomfortable, that goes against the narrative. I know that on a personal level. So that is why we have to talk to the other side as best we can. Bring the facts, bring the receipts, bring the goods.
The problem is, my friend, is when we talk to the other side, they shoot at us.
I couldn't. I was about to say,
they shoot at Charlie Kirk and they shoot at President Trump. Their answer is to shoot the people they can't talk with because they can't defeat with their rhetorical arguments. They can't win the battle of ideas, so they figure I'll just kill my enemy as opposed to.
Bob, I agree. I agree. And the other thing, the final thing I would say to you, we won't get into. It's a huge subject as well, but it's so important. The final thing I'd say to you, if you are a committed Christian, you believe in the Bible and you believe in God's word, we are in the biggest spiritual battle of our lifetime. And we are seeing such deception that Jesus warned about that. Do not be deceived. This is one of the biggest, AI being another. So along these lines, so that is the biggest issue, and we are in a spiritual battle. Ephesians 6 lays that out very, very clearly, and we identify these principalities and what we need to be praying about and what we then need to be shouting about at the same time. That, if anything else, please Just remember that. Forget anything else I've just said. Just remember that. But thank you, Bob.
Thank you for that testimony, my friend. I appreciate you very much. Thank you, Mark. We'll talk soon. And I'm going to connect with you here in the States. I promise you that before you go back across the pond. All right, there you go. So that's Mark Sutherland, my friend from the UK. He's a tremendous filmmaker and obviously an extraordinarily knowledgeable historian and commentator from the UK. So I really appreciate the opportunity to hear from Mark. And I did not, that's crazy. I was looking at the time in the UK to see what the time difference was. I thought it was 2:00. He's here in the States. He told me he was going to be in Indiana in early April just for a few days. And apparently now he's going to be here for a few weeks. So I'm going to probably have to go out there and maybe do a show from, the set of the documentary that he's working on next. All right. We're pushing up on, in fact, we have breached the 8:00 hour. So it's time for me to tell you about our friends at AFP, Americans for Prosperity, Ohio. Not only are they champions for grassroots conservatism, they are champions of this show. As a foundational partner, they were one of the first to come in and support this show financially and to partner with us. And I could not be more grateful. I could also not be more supportive of the mission to help the Buckeye Blueprint become reality. The Buckeye Blueprint, which is online at buckeyeblueprint.com. You can see for yourself. Go to buckeyeblueprint.com, all of the agenda items that they have put together to try to make Ohio better than what it is. We're in the middle of the pack to the bottom third anyway, in most of the categories you see on your screen right now in terms of economic opportunity, educational freedom, and educational outcomes, especially. I think we're like 39th out of 50 states. Which is unacceptable. Energy abundance and government accountability. All four of those very important facets are the mission of AFP Ohio right now. How can you be a part of that? Go to buckeyeblueprint.com. Find out what it means to make change at the local level. Find out what it means to volunteer. Find out how you can contribute your time and talents to help this state become the best state in the country, because that will help all of our lives. So the buckeyeblueprint.com at Americans for Prosperity, Ohio. Thank you, AFP Ohio, for your continued friendship and partnership and support. It means more than you know. All right. And if we're going to grow, by the way, we need more of those partners too. So make sure that if you are a business owner or if you are an organization, a conservative organization that wants to partner with the true American message, and constitutional message, by all means, reach out to Bob at strictlyspeaking.org, Bob at strictlyspeaking.org, and we'll tell you about our other foundational partners as the show goes on. But that was very important. I thought that was very illuminating, what you heard from Mark Sutherland about the UK, and what he said was very, very crucial. We must, because we are a nation that has that, separation of church and state thing, but we have obviously in the First Amendment the right to practice religion as we see fit. There shall be no obstruction of that. The actual language of the First Amendment matters, that Congress will not establish a religion, but will of course not interfere with the free exercise thereof. That's not the exact language, but you understand the point. We will not do that. Well, we have to, as Mark just said, recognize what Islam is. They're finding that out in his country. They're finding that out in England. They're finding that out in Great Britain. The whole of the UK is finding out. Islam is not a religion. Islam is a political ideology. Their goal is power, to assert power in the name of Islam. It is not faith. And so therefore it should not be granted the protections and the privileges of the First Amendment, quite frankly, in this country. So he's seeing it firsthand, the complete invasion of most of Western Europe, but in particular, the UK, by radical Muslims who have taken over the country and taken over, quite frankly, like we just lost our biggest city to Zoltar Mamdani. That's right. I called him Zoltar. They have a Muslim mayor of London as well. So he's sounding the alarm and saying, I'm seeing here in the States exactly which is taking down our country, his country of England and the UK. So very, very loud warning signs being blasted there by Mark Sutherland. All right. I want to share this with you now before we bring in our guest, because that's what it is all about. Coming up tomorrow night in Strongsville. Let's pop this up on the screen if we can. There we go. That's what we're going to do. We are going to take a stroll down Nightmare Lane. I was talking to Shannon Burns when he was putting this whole thing together a few weeks ago, and he talked about, walk down memory lane. Let's try to remind everybody what happened in 2020 and 2021 and 2022 in this state. I said, yeah, but it was not really memories. Memories are pleasant. This is more like a nightmare. And boom, what did I see? Shannon put together a walk down Nightmare Lane. Amy Acton's, Ohio. COVID mandates, lockdowns, and lost freedoms. Tomorrow night, as you can see on the screen, 6:30 p.m., doors open at the Encore Event Center in Strongsville. You cannot just walk in. You've got to RSVP. It's no cost. It's a free event, but you've got to RSVP because we want to know who's going to be there. We don't need a bunch of hecklers and idiots coming in there and causing trouble. But this is going to be a panel discussion. And if you can see the full screen at the top, you'll see three figures there. On the far right there is Judge Jill Lanziger, who is a candidate for Ohio Supreme Court. Then you see me, and the person on the left, well, I'll give him the full screen here. That's our guy, Tom Renz. At least that's AI's version of Tom Renz. Tom is a national freedom, a medical freedom leader and advocate, obviously. He is a tireless champion of our rights, and he wants to expose everybody that was involved in the COVID atrocities and the pandemic, and those who continue to be about that. He wants to see accountability as well. He'll be on the stage along with yours truly, and that's one of the worst AI renderings of me that I have ever seen. Holy cow, is that bad? It looks like some kid with a freaking paint set just threw up on a piece of paper, but that's the one that Shannon came up with. So I'll be there on stage with Tom. And then, as I mentioned, Judge Jill Lanziger as well. We will be talking about this from a lot of different perspectives. The judge was one of those who kept her court open during that period of time. She was not going to fall prey to the pandemic and the shutdowns. Obviously, Tom Renz was a huge advocate for allowing medical freedom and allowing people to breathe freely and not have to be hiding behind masks and more. Wanted people to be able to use whatever method they wanted to treat this, to not mandate vaccines and so forth. And of course, I was there listening to you on the air during that time and providing what I think is one of the biggest forums in Ohio to secure and protect our freedoms during that time. So that's what we're doing tomorrow night on stage in Strongsville. And I asked our friend Tom Renz to come onto the program today and talk a little bit about what we're going to do. And he was kind enough to say, let's do it. So Tom Renz, the Tom Renz Show, TomRenz.com. How are you, my friend? Oh, you're muted. Yeah, it's got to be on your end. I don't have you muted on my end. All right, we're going to piece that together. There we go. I hear you now.
There we go.
Thank you, sir. How are you, my friend?
Doing well. How you been, Bob?
Good. Very, very busy. There's a lot going on, obviously. We got people taking shots at the president again. We got in the middle of a war that we didn't really know was coming. And now we're going to relive tomorrow night one of the worst periods of our lifetimes, I think, what was done in our state just about 6 years ago now.
Yeah, it was terrible, but it's critical that we don't forget. I mean, they're trying so hard to memory hole us. They don't want us to remember our kids being forced to wear masks, put behind plexiglass, us being told that we have to walk the right way down the grocery store aisle. I mean, for God's sakes, we could walk into a restaurant, but we had to wear the mask until we sat down because COVID only worked over 6 feet up in the air. I mean, the whole 9 yards. And yet this bimbo has the audacity to run for the governor. The fact that it's even a serious thing is just mind-blowing to me. I mean, it tells you how much more power pharma has in the state than they should.
Well, that's a really great point. Maybe it's a great question. Is it pharma and the power that they have that, to get somebody like Amy Acton into this position to potentially take over the state? Or Is it a sign of how far the Democrat Party in the state of Ohio has fallen? That they can't find a legislator? They can't find somebody that's popular enough in the General Assembly, or somebody who's actually, been in Congress perhaps, to step in and say, I want to lead the state? That they have a non-politician, never run for office before. Her only public exposure she's ever had was the nightmare that she created in COVID. And that's all they've got to throw up there. Maybe it's a sign of how weak the Democrat Party is. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's a great point. The fact that she's never done anything other than lock us down. But I will say, listen, the Democrats are insane. They're certifiably nuts. If you're voting Democrat at this point, you probably need a mental health check. That said, DeWine's not exactly bashing her. I mean, we've got a rhino problem in the state. We have a red supermajority in the state, and we just got too many guys like DeWine that are not willing to take a stand on anything, and that's because of the money. The money running through the state is insane. Farmer runs the state up one side and down the other. And I mean, Bob, you've been in this game for a very long time. The Chamber of Commerce in the state is absolutely a leftist rag group, and they are 100% pushing these things. It's not that they're coming out necessarily, as Democrat or as Republican, but they were big pro lockdown. They're big pro pharma, big pro everything that DeWine did during COVID. And without them, there'd be no issue. So, I mean, it's a combination, I think, of the special interests, the big money, the power of pharma, and the Democrats are insane.
Yeah, that's a great summation. It is all of those things, Tom. And going back to Acton for just a second, and you said Mike DeWine isn't exactly condemning her. Mike DeWine is campaigning for her. In my estimation, if you recall, Vivek Ramaswamy did not get the endorsement of Mike DeWine very early on. The ORP did it, which you can debate whether or not they should have or not. President Trump did it very, very early on. But Mike DeWine, I asked him on this show last year, actually the radio side of things, last year, I don't know, 6-8 months ago, whatever it was. And I asked him, are you going to endorse Vivek Ramaswamy? And at the time, he said, well, we don't know who's all going to be in the race yet. He was really hoping he could convince his Lieutenant Governor Tressel to get into this thing because he did not want to endorse. Trump endorsed Vivek Ramaswamy. And I said to him on my program, are you sure you're not going to endorse Amy Acton? Because you gave her the power to run the state in 2020, 2021, and 2022 in the COVID response. You literally let her make all of the decisions. So I figured since you trusted her then, maybe you'd endorse her. He got pissed off, which is why I haven't had him back on then, because I said, are you going to endorse Amy Acton? But then last week, Tom, he pretty much did. Amy Acton was taking a lot of shots for the stuff that we're talking about right now, everything that you just ran down, plus a million things more that we're going to talk about tomorrow night. But she made all of those decisions. And Mike DeWine, who ultimately endorsed Vivek Ramaswamy when Macaulay came on board as the LG, but Mike DeWine came to the defense publicly of Amy Acton, saying, no, don't blame her for those things. Blame me. I made all those decisions. Well, he's term limited. He can say that, but he's protecting her. To me, that's almost actively campaigning for the Democrat.
Yeah, well, I mean, is that a surprise to anybody? I mean, this guy is as close to a Democrat as you can have. He's literally the definition of a rhino. Mike DeWine was chosen as the Republican most likely to sell his state out in this country with regards to the COVID lockdowns and everything else. He was in the Fauci emails. They looked at I think there were 3 governors, if I recall, that they were looking at, and they went with Mike DeWine because they knew if there was one guy that was owned by pharma and as close to a leftist as you can get, it would be Mike DeWine. And, one of the things that people don't remember or understand is that without Mike DeWine, you don't have COVID, right? Because if one of the Republican governors didn't sell out and shut down their state, then COVID became a partisan issue. And then nothing happens, right? Then it just goes away. There's none of this. But this whole thing, you have to understand, they had to get the first Republican governor to sell out and lock their state down. And that was Mike DeWine. And remember, that was a pharma move, right? That was a pharma move because without that universal emergency, that universal lockdown, there was no EUA for the COVID vaccines, which is really what COVID was all about. And DeWine's got deep ties to pharma. He's down in Cincinnati. It's farmland down there. And, it was really mind blowing. So Mike DeWine's endorsement is one of the best reasons for me Mike DeWine's informal endorsement of Amy Atkins is one of the best reasons for me to campaign against her. By the way, you're right. The AI rendering, I didn't even know who you were in that AI rendering. And I looked at myself and it looked like my face ran through some sort of a wood chipper or something. It's like, oh my God.
I know it is so bad, but we all rely on it to some extent, some way or another. Here's a better version. That's your Twitter profile. Hopefully people can see that right now. Yeah, there we go. That's your X profile, so people can check that out. The Tom Renz Show. What is that? Putting an axe in the skull of tyranny. That's not exactly a hidden message, is it, Tom?
No, well, we got the big battle axe back there, which is actually a real battle axe. It's an actual thing.
From what battle?
Well, it was. I had it made.
Okay.
It wasn't actually used in a battle yet, although I keep waiting.
I was going to say you're going to have to acquire one of those, aren't you?
Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to get like an old antique that was actually used. I mean, that'd be cool. I collect that sort of stuff. I've been in martial arts my whole life, and I enjoy punching things. I'm getting old now, so I don't like getting punched back as much as I used to. But but yeah, we have to take a stand, and we have to be bold about it, right? We don't really. Donald Trump came in, and one of the things that I talked a lot about when he came in is that it's not a time for us to stand down. It's not a time for us to go back to sleep. It's not a time for us to go back to 2019, 2018, when we thought we had someone saving us and we thought we had a free nation. And it's turned out that was probably more correct than I'd even want it to be. Trump's came in, and we still have tyranny all over the place. I mean, some of the stuff going on is just insane, and we can't pass the SAVE Act. We can't. How do we not? We have a Republican Congress, we have a Republican president, we have an arguably Republican Supreme Court, and we can't pass the SAVE Act. This is foundationally, we've had no accountability because the DOJ is crooked as hell. I understand it's Trump's DOJ. It's still crooked as hell. They didn't fire everybody. And until they do fire everybody, they're going to remain crooked. I mean, we went back to sleep. Everybody kind of went back to sleep and said, oh, Trump's got it. But Trump is one man. He's always been one man. And the problem we have is that the deep state is very, very deep. And we can see it here in Ohio, too. We talk about DeWine and his crew. Well, we've been Republican in Ohio for quite some time. We were Republican during the lockdowns, yet it still happened. So it's one of those things where we have to understand being Republican and voting Republican is not enough. We have to get involved in the primaries. We've got to get involved with running for office. And we've got to make sure it's the right Republicans, not this rhino garbage that's out there all over the place.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I'm going to come back to Trump in a moment and about the SAVE Act, Save America Act, and why we can't get stuff done in Congress in a second. But I'm going to focus laser-like, or ask you to, on the lesson, because we're going to do this thing tomorrow. We're going to walk down Nightmare Lane and remind everybody. And it's basically just going to be, here's why you cannot give Amy Atkins the keys to the state because of what we did. But Tom, to your knowledge, have we done enough since learning all of the lessons of COVID and the lessons of what was done to us during that time? Has the General Assembly, the Republican, you mentioned it, the Republican General Assembly done enough to make sure that the shit that was done to us during that period of time will never happen again? I want laws to say no one can ever do what Amy Atkins, ruled by fiat under the nodding approval of Mike No Spine. Nobody can ever do that again. That's what I fear. It's one thing to look back. It's one thing to look back at that, that period, which is what we're going to do tomorrow. And we're going to lament all of the things that were done. But are we assured that it won't happen again to us, that the next pandemic or whatever they use to strip away our rights, that they're not just going to be able to go right back at it?
No, by no means are we sure of that. In fact, I know you'll recall when we passed early on the legislation, we overrode DeWine's veto. The legislation limited his power in an emergency. So that was a big, big deal. And that was one of the most important laws passed in the country. I mean, I worked in so many states, and not many states were able to do that. That was a huge deal. I mean, you were a big part of it. I did my share. We were all pushing for that everywhere, and that was critical. So that does help a little bit. But we still have laws. Right to choose laws. Things like we really need to strongly push medical freedom across the board. Things like we know and do everything we can to limit any force or any coercion in vaccines, vaccine mandates, or any other medicine. We really need to go back to recentering on the doctor-patient relationship. I mean, that's foundational. And what I mean by that is the doctor-patient relationship needs to be defined by the doctor and the patient, not the doctor and the patient and the insurance company, not the doctor and the patient and the federal government, not the doctor and the patient and the state government. We need to do more to protect doctors. I mean, the way doctors' licenses were attacked, and and actually during that time, professional licenses across the board were attacked, was appalling. Now we've got some good state boards and some different places, but these doctors' licenses. My friend Sherry Tenpenny, we had to defend her license.
Yeah.
Things like access to some of these drugs, ivermectin, it's still very limited.
Yeah, all those things, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, they demonized and they said, can't be used, and called it, just everything that they tried to do. Tom, again, I'm looking at it and saying, if there is, not just if, because I think that was more of a dry run, but when they try to retake control of the population, what we can put in our bodies, what our doctors are allowed to prescribe, what pharmacists are allowed to reject. That's one of the big things that the medical freedom community, like Stephanie Stock, who's running for state rep, by the way, who I endorse and support, she's shining a spotlight on. All of this stuff, Tom, I don't think is any different. And nothing has really changed since we went through that nightmare. And I'm legitimately worried about part 2.
Yeah, well, it's going to happen. And I mean, I will tell you this: there's more. Right now they're talking a little bit about energy lockdowns, things like that, and that's certainly not beyond the scope. But remember, and I know this is going to make people fussy, but I mean, the truth is the truth. Donald Trump issued an executive order on gain of function. And everybody said, oh, good, we need to deal with that. Here's the problem. That executive order actually enshrined gain of function and brought it onshore. So we're doing it here in the United States right now. And in fact, there's very strong evidence, Peter McCullough and his crew put out, that the bird flu that went around a few years ago originated from one of the gain of function labs down in Georgia. And I've looked at that evidence myself. I agree with them. That's a very, very high likelihood. These lab leaks that happen in these dangerous experimental labs, they happen. And I mean, in COVID, there's a real good question. It's fair to ask whether it was a lab leak or intentional. But, at the end of the day, we are now working and performing gain of function work here in the United States. We probably ought to make sure that it's banned in Ohio. But I mean, I don't see that happening.
It should be banned all across the country. You're exactly right. And I apologize for the interruption, but just since you brought this up, with respect to whether it was intentional or a leak, I mean, how is it anything but intentional, considering what happened quickly thereafter? Now, President Trump championed and celebrated, Trump warp speed. We got this vaccine in record time. But the reality was it kind of wasn't, because that had been introduced and had been developed for a very long time. Dr. Malone, Robert Malone, was one of the patent holders of the RNA technology, the messenger RNA technology that was used for these shots. And the belief, according to a lot of people in the medical community and in the research community, is they had this and were just waiting for the chance to use it. And this was the chance they were waiting for, which is why, again, it's very unlikely it was a leak. It was, it was released upon the people so that they could actually start this this massive, worldwide global experiment.
Yeah, well said. And yes, it was. I mean, I actually testified down in Congress that so we actually broke the news. It's interesting. I just saw the indictment yesterday related to the origins of SARS-CoV-2. Well, we broke that in September of 2022. Andrew Huff, Pam Popper, and I put together a report, sent it down to Congress, laid out the whole thing. And it was indisputable. We knew that this was created in the lab. We knew EcoHealth Alliance was behind it. USAID, by the way, USAID, the CIA, which means the CIA was involved. We knew that, all these guys were involved, Ralph Barrick. And one of the things, actually, by the way, I want everybody to hear this. This technology that was used in Wuhan, China to create this bioweapon could not legally be exported without authorization from our federal government. You can't send technology to create bioweapons to China without our government knowing about it. So this was not only done with USAID funding, which is a CIA, the CIA has its hands all over that, but it was also done with approval somewhere. Someone approved this, which someone we haven't been able to find, but this could never have happened otherwise. Ralph Barrick was, teaching these Chinese Communist Party members how to create bioweapons. And again, it's not something you can do. So this was done not only with foresight, and not only was that, by the way, when you create a bioweapon, you create the vaccine or the treatment at the same time you create it in case it gets out. This was absolutely all done at the same time. It looks like we can prove that it was there by the mid-2010s. There's arguments and people who believe it's before that. And it was done with full knowledge and with complicity of our federal government.
Yeah, and that's a disturbing reality. And I mentioned President Trump and the warp speed and then everything that you just said with respect to the CIA's involvement in these things. It's very disturbing. And we're looking for a champion, and President Trump is supposed to be our champion. And by the way, in so many ways he is. And I also don't think he was complicit in what became the COVID mandates, the COVID shot mandates, which of course after they stole the election, which is what Joe Biden did. But President Trump was responding to a global emergency and an American emergency in which people were freaking out. We have to do something. We have to do something. And so boom, here comes Operation Warp Speed. I don't think he was complicit. I think he was forced into an action that was probably a little bit, not probably, it certainly was premature, because the long-term studies have not been done. I think he was doing the best he could at the time. But here we are now, Tom, we're 6 years after the start of it and roughly 4 years after the worst of the worst, was done to us. And they're still discovering the effects of those shots on people, including clots, blood clots that are still being found, people who are suffering from long-term cardiac problems because of the shots that they took. Last time I spoke with Robert McCullough, Dr. McCullough told me that they can verify more people have died from those shots than died from COVID. Now, I can't recall his specific numbers and how he came up with that, but he was very adamant that that was the case. So again, we sit here rehashing what happened and looking back at it, but we need to look forward and say, how can we ensure that type of mandate will never be issued again, especially given its lethal repercussions?
Well, it's absolutely going to be issued again. I mean, right now, listen, Trump was, and I'm sorry, I supported the president. I fought for the president, but Trump was a useful idiot with COVID. I mean, yes, this stuff was there. Now, I'm not going to say
that doesn't make, and I apologize again, that doesn't mean he's an idiot. A useful idiot is a tool that somebody else tries to manipulate to advance their outcome, and they don't realize they're being manipulated. That's what I agree with you.
100%. I don't think he had a clue. Now, I'm just going to tell you, I kind of led this all over the country. The amount of work I had to do to find this, and I had to I didn't believe myself. I always believed what I was saying, but I had to double check the work. The amount of effort it took to uncover what they were doing was monumental. I would go in, I'd argue with doctors. They'd tell me why I was wrong. I'd tell them why I wasn't. We'd go back and forth. Eventually, I always won because I was right. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump had the most profoundly brilliant liars and crooks around him of anybody in the world, and they did a great job of pulling the wool over his eyes. So, to this day, he's still yelling about Operation Warp Speed as being something that's good. Operation Warp Speed led to the single greatest public health failure in the history of humanity, and facilitated the largest crime against humanity and human history, which is the COVID-19 vaccines. And I say that with respect and full knowledge of things like World War II and some of these horrible things that have happened. But this is a horrific thing. Right now, we know, and I've posted repeatedly, a 2006 industry guidance document from the FDA where they acknowledge that these mRNA vaccines are a cause of cancer. That's why we have turbo cancer right now. That data is becoming more and more useful, and it's being proven on every single day. We see more of that. The autoimmune issues. We see people with dementia, brain fog, serious issues thinking. This was the most profound and evil crime against humanity. And let's talk about the kids, Bob. Let's talk about kids. Not one single healthy kid was ever proven to die from COVID at the height of the pandemic. Yet these pharmaceutical companies who knew that and knew that these vaccines had no preventive value because they didn't even bother testing it, and actually no benefit whatsoever for a child. They knew that there was zero benefit for children, and all sorts of risks. They covered up the myocarditis, they covered up all these things. They knew that there was a high risk and no benefit for a child, and yet they put it forth, and they tried to shove it in every kid's arm they could. Anyways, do you know what that is, Bob?
They still are, by the way. Every flu season now they're saying get your COVID shot, and there are still mothers, parents who have been completely brainwashed by the pandemic, indoctrination. They're still jamming those needles into their kids' arms to get boosters every year, just like it's a flu shot now. It's insane.
Do you know what that is? That is paid murder. That's paid murder.
Okay.
These pharmaceutical companies, they don't care if your child dies from their product as long as they make the $60 off of it. They don't care how many children die as long as they get their few dollars off of this poison. It is profound. If you ever want to truly understand evil, look at the pharmaceutical companies who push these unsafe, ineffective jabs that have no benefit whatsoever in children, but could kill a child. They're willing to risk killing a child for a few bucks in their pocket. Yet somehow Mike DeWine and too many Republicans and all the Democrats still seem to love these guys.
Yeah. And did you see there's a current event on this, Tom, in addition to our event tomorrow? And let me throw that back up there again for everybody to see. Tomorrow, we're going to be in Strongsville. Tom Renz will be with us on the stage. It'll be kind of a panel. Oh, that's the wrong one. It'll be a panel discussion. There he is right there, or the facsimile thereof. But we're going to be in Strongsville at the Encore Event Center, 6:30 tomorrow night. Tom, myself, and Judge. She's the only one that came out looking okay in this, I guess. Judge Jill Lansinger, who's running for the Ohio Supreme Court, and she was a very, very strong voice for opposing the lockdowns and opposing everything that was done to us by Mike DeWine and Amy Acton during that period. But Tom, current event here for today's discussion, just since we're chatting about this, David Morens, you're familiar, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Dr. David Morens, former senior advisor to Fauci at NIAID, was indicted on federal charges alleging he conspired to hide communications related to COVID research during the pandemic. The DOJ says he used private email to evade public record laws. He concealed or destroyed records tied to COVID research grants and was involved in efforts related to reviving a controversial coronavirus grant. Todd Blanche called it a profound abuse of trust during the pandemic. Okay, good, go for it, get him. Why not Fauci, though?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got the Biden auto pen pardon. And one of the things you got to understand is this DOJ does not want to do anything real, right? I don't trust this DOJ at all. Now, I'm thrilled that they got rid of Pam Bondi.
Same.
But Blanche is not any better. And I'll tell you, here's one of the biggest tells I've seen so far, because we see a couple of cases get filed yesterday. We got Morens and Comey. Have you looked at the Comey case at all, Bob? It's
Yeah, well, just what they reported yesterday, just what Blanche said, and what the attorney assistant attorney general or whatever he is in Eastern District of North Carolina. I played those clips earlier, and Tom, and you can go ahead and finish your point here. But I actually said, thank God they got rid of Bondi. At least Blanche is doing something here. We wanted Comey and a whole bunch of other people wearing the iron bracelets, and finally that's happening. I don't know what's going to happen with the trial, but they're at least pushing it now, and they weren't doing that under Bondi. But go ahead and make your point.
Well, at the risk of being the guy who's a little bit too jaded and skeptical, which I'm definitely that guy at this point.
That's all right.
Because remember, we didn't fire anybody at the DOJ. We didn't fire, of the 5,000 FBI agents that were involved with the Fedsurrection going after the J6ers, like about 150 of them have been fired, right? So, I mean, this is the same DOJ we had under Joe Biden. It really is. It just, there's a couple different names that have changed place, but unless you get rid of the bad actors, it's not going to change anything. The guys that do the work are the same people. So
you're a lawyer, Tom. Can you speak to that? Because I agree with you, but what I've gathered, and I think just from reading a little bit and just observing, is that he can't fire the lot of them. All of the DOJ lawyers that were responsible, as you say, Biden's DOJ, you can't fire all of them, because who are you going to replace them with in terms of either A, experience, or B, competency that you can trust? I mean, if you're talking about firing hundreds or thousands of lawyers and replacing them, like, is there a pool that's that deep where the president and whomever he chooses as his AG can identify and vet and know that these people aren't going to be any worse than the ones that just got fired? I don't understand how that works. Maybe you do.
Well, I mean, what you're going to have to do is go look, and you're going to have to do some real work on it. But at the end of the day, the key thing you said there was competency and trust.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are proven incompetent and untrustworthy. So why would we leave them there? I mean, frankly, I'd rather have someone who is a little less experienced but was honest than what we're getting now. I mean, just the application of some common sense. I'd take a trained monkey over someone who called a parent that went to a school board meeting a terrorist. I mean, I'd rather have no prosecutions than prosecutions like of parents that were. Listen, I am not of the camp that trading my security for freedom is an acceptable thing. I am 100% of the belief that I'd rather have 1,000 guilty men go free than one innocent man go to jail. Freedom is paramount, and it's the thing we have to fight for in this country. And when we have a broken justice system that's weaponized because we have a bunch of crook lawyers with too much power, listen, I'll take the honest guy who's less qualified every day over the crook who's willing to sell out our principles and our freedoms for whatever purpose, because you can train someone to be a better lawyer. You can't train the corruption out of a crook. So, that's
that is so well said. That is very well said. And I second all of that. I'm thinking of it more along the lines. It's not a question of should you take the qualified one who's corrupt or the less qualified one who's honest. I'm not saying that. I agree with you. I would take that as well. But I mean, just from the sheer volume of people that would have to be replaced, like, how do they do that? Like when ICE wanted to expand, and they said, we're going to hire X number of new ICE agents to start this largest deportation, et cetera. I was told that they got a couple 100,000 applicants for 10,000 positions, that they were hiring. And that was great to hear, but now somebody's got to sift through all of those. And can the DOJ function and literally work during a transitional period in which 1,000 lawyers are being fired or 5,000 lawyers or whatever, and we've got to sift through, the applications of more and get them all on the job and up to speed? And I don't know. It just seems like it's a large job to do in a year so far of the presidency.
Well, but the problem is they didn't start, right? So the way you do this is you do 100 at a time. You assign a bunch of people to go through 100 at a time, and you get rid of the worst at first, and keep going. And the most important thing are the people who are vetting the new guys coming in, and making sure that you've got a very strong group of people that's going to vet the new guys coming in. But you do it at one. You're right. Firing everybody day one and doing it all at once doesn't work. But firing 100, 200, whatever a month and replacing them with people that are functional is absolutely doable. The problem is that they're doing zero.
Well, you're right. But and this is, you said, maybe you're the jaded guy, and I'm going to be the cynical guy, though. Again, that doesn't work. If you replace 100 of them at once, all of the others know their time is coming. They are going to immediately start shredding and deleting and whatever they have to do to protect themselves and to stay on. If they know that the purge is coming little by little by little, they'll do whatever corrupt things they have to do to protect themselves, or they'll get the worst of the worst. Will start. If you start with the worst of the worst, the next level guys will start to do everything they can to finish the job before their pink slip comes. So I don't think there's any easy way to drain that DOJ swamp. Is I guess the cynical part of me that I'm saying.
Agreed. It's not easy, but it's necessary. And remember something. When I was running out all over the country to get Donald Trump in here on my own dime, I was doing it because I wanted him to do the hard work. A lot of people, one of the things that I'll hear out there is, well, why didn't you say anything about Epstein during the Biden administration? My personal answer is that because I was busy fighting the COVID corruption and I just couldn't get there. Also because there was no way Biden was going to do anything. Biden was garbage. Everybody knows Biden was garbage. Do you really want Trump to be compared to Biden? Is that that's your mark? That's your watermark? The thing is we fought for Trump because we wanted more. I wanted accountability. I wanted the swamp drain. I didn't want more of the same. I didn't want another rhino. I didn't want another sellout. I didn't want a Democrat. I wanted a guy who was going to fight and do the hard things to drain the swamp. And yes, cleaning the DOJ is tough. No question about it. And you're right, they might do that. So, and we can go back and forth all day on this. What I would say to you in response to you is, okay, so not everybody at the DOJ is bad. You kind of sift through, find the good guys. I mean, I know a bunch of good people at the DOJ. You get them, you put them in a position of power to watch everything. And if anybody's doing anything wrong, they're fired immediately. I mean, but is it perfect? No. But is it necessary? And the thing is that's what we fought for, was real systemic long-term change. And the reason that the administration's getting so much blowback right now is because we fought for accountability, real accountability for the people at the top. The Epstein pedophiles, the people that were behind COVID, Anthony Fauci, you know what, we might not be able to get him for some things, but we can probably get him for others. There's an argument to be made that there's ways to work around that part. Is it going to work? I don't know, but I'd love to see him go through the hell he put us through. Give it a try. There's a lot of different things that we should be doing. And one of the things that I'm going to tell you right now with this DOJ, and this is a prediction, and yes, it's cynical, and yes, it's shaded. The case that was filed against James Comey had nothing to do with treason, nothing to do with sedition, nothing to do with violations related to FISA, which we're pushing again, which is incomprehensible to me. Nothing to do with Crossfire Hurricane, the 2020 election steal. No, we filed two counts based on a picture of some damn seashells that I had to look up when I saw it. I'd never heard of 86 anything.
You're kidding. No, don't fool me.
Bob, why would 86? I lie about this?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's as common in our culture as any. I don't know. It's anything. When we were, 86. It's like when somebody says, "Yeah, I'll have the double cheeseburger." 86, the mustard. That means get rid of the mustard.
Never heard that in my life.
Never heard that phrase before.
No, I got to be honest with you, Bob. We're about the same age. I mean, give or take. Yeah. Even as a kid, like I thought when that came out in 86, 47, why is everybody making a deal out of that? I literally had to look it up. I had never heard that.
You know what the 8 and the 6 stand for, right? Did you look that up?
I looked it up for the show last night because I saw the charges. I know that they're referencing 86 as a kill or murder type thing.
Yeah.
Now, but so last night what I did was I ran a couple of AI searches trying to figure out the origins of 86 because outside of what I've seen in the media, I've never heard that ever in my life.
That's wild.
And yeah. So that was a surprise to me.
But that's his defense. I mean, first of all, just to clarify for everybody who doesn't know, 86 basically the phrasing means after you kill him, you drive him 8 miles out and bury him 6 feet under, so he can never be found again. That's what it means to get rid of the person you're killing. But the point is, for James Comey to say, I didn't know what it was, then why did you post it? You freaking posted it. If you had just seen that, you wouldn't say, what an interesting shell formation.
Yeah.
You're the freaking former FBI director. You got fired by this guy. You have publicly excoriated this guy. You hate this guy, and you're going to try to convince us that you just happened upon something that, and then I didn't know what it meant. That's why I posted it. Once somebody told me what it meant, I immediately took it down. My ass. That was a way of saying, get rid of 47, get rid of Donald Trump. You might not have been aware of it. And I don't doubt your word, obviously, Tom, but
I'd be happy to admit it.
But I promise you he did. There's no reason he posts that otherwise.
Well, but here's the problem, Bob. And as I look at this case, my problem is the case is garbage and it's weak, and it should be one of 50,000 other crimes he committed that were far more serious. I'm not saying that threatening the president isn't serious, and I'm not saying that that's okay, but I'm saying there's a lot more he should be charged with that has a lot more meaning to this country. Now, the problem with this 86 thing, and let me explain this from a lawyer's perspective. To get the conviction on this, you have to prove intent. And you have to prove a specific intent to threaten the president, right? Now, it's not a hard thing for him to say, and whether it's true or not is hard to say, but you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a very high standard, that his intent was not, let's just get rid of the president. His intent wasn't, let's fire the president. It wasn't, 86 the pickles off the cheeseburger type thing, let's get him out of office. It was to physically threaten violence towards the president. And while you and I will agree, and I will agree with you that, okay, given what I now know is the meaning of that, maybe he was. It's very realistically likely that he was. But to prove that in a courtroom is a very high standard, and you're proving intent on something that he then a few days later went on Jimmy Kimmel or Colbert or someone and said, oh yeah, we didn't know. We just thought it was a neat thing at the beach, and we didn't know that. Now, is that likely? No. Common sense says no, but we have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And I'm going to tell you, remember, if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. A good lawyer, and he'll have a damn good lawyer, can absolutely make a very strong argument that it's reasonable to doubt that he was actually threatening violence. He said, oh, yeah, I'm okay with having the president removed. I didn't like him. And so my point is, when we look at this, is not to debate whether 86 means what it means, not to debate whether or not this was a good thing to do. It wasn't. There's nothing good about this. My point is that this crook is getting away with a lot of very serious crimes that he should be being charged with. And we're dinking around with a case that he's likely going to win or get off on.
Well, I will agree with you 1,000 times over that there are far more important things to charge him with. Those are obviously harder things to prove, and maybe this one is too hard to prove too, and because of what you just said. Obviously, a grand jury heard enough to say, yeah, it's very likely he did that. They returned the true bill, so here we go. And we know about you can indict a ham sandwich and all the rest, but they saw
perjury is not hard to prove, right? In some of his instances, in some of what he's done. Going after him for perjury, conspiracy, right? Because if you perjured yourself as part of a larger project, there's probably a conspiracy to do so. There's a lot of things that they could have done. They could have tied this into major RICO actions related to the 2020 election. There's so many things they could have done, but instead they're digging around. And my concern with this, Bob, is that we've got the same thing that we had with Pam Bondi, just a little bit different packaging. We're not going to go after the big guys and do the hard cases. We're going to do these crappy little one-offs to try and save some face before the election. But, is it going to be meaningful or substantive? And I'm very, very jaded and skeptical at this point, because there's so many meaningful and strong, powerful cases that they could put out there against real deep state members that would have a huge impact. And they're not that hard of cases. If I can look at Republicans' data on the internet, which she can pull, tell me the DOJ can't figure out the same thing. Tell me that our Department of Justice, that we spend billions and billions of dollars on every year, that has what we would argue are the best and brightest attorneys and law enforcement on the planet, can't do what a couple of internet guys can do using Grok and Twitter.
No, you're right about that, Tom. I completely agree. You said a few minutes ago, not all of the attorneys that work in the Department of Justice are crap or are corrupt or whatever. There are some good guys in there.
No.
Why wouldn't those people be moving on this? And I don't know how responsibilities are allocated. I don't know what the Attorney General says and who's in what department and who gets to push what. But because I agree with you, all of those things kind of appear to be readily available, and you would think that somebody in the DOJ would be able to kind of pull the strings there and look around and say, yeah, we've got enough here to go get them on perjury for this, that, or the other thing. Why aren't some of the good guys in the department that you're talking about moving?
Well, because they're not going to be allowed to. If they do it without permission, they're going to get fired, and someone's going to replace them who will throw the case or withdraw the case. And so they get fired for nothing. There's absolutely no benefit whatsoever. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't do anything. There's just no benefit.
So why would Trump choose then leadership at the DOJ, not just the AG, but in whatever other levels down from that? Why would he accept this, considering he was the target? He was the target of Crossfire Hurricane. He was the target of Arctic Frost. He was the guy that they were all acting against. Why wouldn't he pick somebody who's going to get him, even if it's purely revenge driven because of what they did to me, which is not a great thing to be, but it's also, understandable. Why would he pick somebody that isn't going to go out there and get this and really make an example of them and lock them all up so that nobody else can do that?
Well, I want to really key in on what you said, because it's critical. A lot of people say, well, it's because he's sold out. And I don't know that I agree with that, because even on issues that are dear to him, because Trump is definitely, if there's one thing Trump is not, he's not the kind of guy who you stab him in the back and he forgives you, right? He's the kind of guy,
loyalty matters to him.
He's going to go after you. So there's a lot of people Trump would like to see in jail. So I'll tell you what I think. I think it's the same thing that happened during COVID. He has people who someone says these are the best and the brightest. They tell him, oh, we can't do it, Mr. President. There's just no case. There's no way we can do this. Trump is not a lawyer any more than he was a doctor during Operation Warp Speed. He doesn't know these things. And despite the fact that we got a lot of cultists out there that seem to think Trump is Jesus and omnipotent, he's not. He's a normal guy who, he does great things. He's got some things he's done great. He's got a lot of things he's done that are poorly. But at the end of the day, he is a normal guy. He doesn't know. He's not a lawyer. So if the lawyers come and tell him, hey, this won't work, and it's a lawyer he trusts or he believes to be a good lawyer, well, I mean, that's what he's going to go with. I mean, he's a business leader. In business, if you're running a major corporation, if you're, a wildly successful billionaire guy like Donald Trump, your advisors tell you what you need to know, and you listen to them. So his advisors come in there. No, there's just no case. Oh, there's nothing we can do. I mean, the Letitia James and James Comey case that they filed initially, and I've laid this out extensively on my show, that wasn't a bad judge. It wasn't. That judge followed the black letter of the law. That was Pam Bondi intentionally throwing the case because she didn't want Comey in jail. What she did was she had Lindsay Halligan file this case. Lindsay Halligan, I don't know, she's probably a great attorney. But Lindsay Halligan did not, by the black letter of the law, have the authority to file that case. And then they waited to file it till right before the statute of limitations ran. That was an intentional setup to throw that case. Bondi did that on purpose. There's no question in my mind. So, I think that Trump
intentionally to harm Trump. Why would she do that?
She did. I don't, because she wanted to protect this guy. I mean, she was protecting this guy.
I mean, she was given the opportunity of a life. She was already, I guess, a relatively successful AG in Florida, right? So President Trump calls her up to the big job, and she's gonna turn around and stab him in the back.
Well, yeah, quite clearly. Remember, she was brought in by Wiles, who Susie Wiles to me is one of the most corrupt individuals in Washington, D.C. Wiles was, they both worked together at Ballard Partners, who, by the way, represents Bayer Pharmaceuticals, which is why we have the glyphosate executive order, right? Isn't it funny that the place that they both worked represents the group that's now getting the wildly unpopular glyphosate order? I mean, it's quite clear they don't care if Trump gets hit as long as they're making something in their pocket. I mean, these people aren't loyal to Trump. They're not loyal to MAGA. Trump's surrounded by snakes. One of the things that Donald Trump is not good at is hiring the right people. Bill Barr, Mike Pence, I mean, Jeff Sessions, go through the list. He hires these clowns all the time that just spend their time stabbing him in the back.
You meant Bill Barr. I think you meant Bill Barr, by the way, not Bill Maher. He didn't hire Bill Maher for anything yet.
No, certainly not. I get a boot out of Maher's show, even though I don't agree with him very
I
often.
do too. He's becoming He's becoming must watch, at least scrolls, if not watching his actual show. But
I don't have to agree with you all the time. But I can appreciate the fact that he does try and look at things, even though it's not my perspective, but he does keep a relatively open mind on certain things.
He does, and and he might be moving some people in the far left more toward the center, like he has moved, which is a good thing. So, all right, Tom, we gotta wrap it here. I appreciate all of the great insights. We got to talk further about the deep state and how President Trump. And I've said the same thing. The biggest criticism I had from him during his first term was judge of character, and I've talked to many guests about this. Many guests about this. How did he pick the people that he picked for all of the places that the positions, cabinet level, and others that he had to change them after a year or 2 years because they were the wrong people? And the defenders that I spoke to would always say, well, he didn't know Washington. He didn't know Washington. He came in, they gave him some people and said, here's the people that you can trust to help you pick people, blah, 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 because he was not a politician. He's not a career guy. He's a New York guy, not a Washington guy. But the second term around, boy, he will have learned from those mistakes. Well, here we are. Still the same problem, same problem of being the right judge of character or vetting or evaluating these people in high levels, important positions. Like you said, Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem. He's had to replace a number of these people already. So it's like, at what point do we start to see a pattern here? He's a tremendous leader, but not necessarily the best evaluator of loyal talent. I'll give you the last word.
No, I mean, that's the problem we're facing right now. And that's the reason that I think that I'm very suspect about this DOJ. I mean, Todd Blanche has a bunch of people around him that were anti-J6, anti-freedom. They called parents that went to school boards terrorists. And the guy's just not doing the right thing. At the end of the day, Amy Acton, Todd Blanche, all these people, it's all just part of the same cesspool. And we, the people, are the solution. At the end of the day, watching this show, getting informed, paying attention, sharing this show, sharing my show, getting active, just taking a stand on this stuff is what's necessary. The only thing tyranny fears are we the people. And it's we the people that have to rise up on this. It isn't Donald Trump that's going to save us. It's not, nobody in Washington, D.C. is going to save us. We're going to save ourselves. And we need to wake back up. We need to get the gang back together. And we need to start fighting because we're moving in the wrong direction. I mean, we got digital. We got the digital prison on its way. We got the cars that, we just saw the stuff on the Ford car that's going to be a spy vehicle. We've got
switches that are going to be put into cars in 27.
We've got the real ID, which is really a digital ID. It's a biometric ID system that's going to track and trace you all over. It's being tied in with crypto and a bunch of different things like that. I mean, we're going the wrong direction on so many things. It's ultimately up to us to take a stand on this, or we're in serious trouble.
Yeah, it is. So one more time, here's what we've got tomorrow. This is why we're talking to Tom today, and I really appreciate it, Tom. Tom has a massive online following ever since COVID, and he literally kind of put his law career to the side a little bit to go out there and try to challenge the COVID narratives and to fight for freedom and to fight for medical freedom and against all of the tyranny that we experience. That's why Tom is just a massive platform now, which means I'm honored to have him here. So we're going to be honored to have him on stage tomorrow with me, along with Judge Lanzinger. It's 6:30, as you can see on the screen right now. The walk down the nightmare lane of Amy Acton's Ohio. Tom will be there, I will be there, and Judge Lanzinger will be there on stage. It'll be a panel discussion, but also Q&A from you in the audience. You have to RSVP. It's free, no cost, but you can't just show up at the door. You got to RSVP. Go to, as you can see on the screen, Strongsville GOP. Well, this is the nucleus page to the specific event. Just go to strongsvillegop.org and you'll get there. strongsvillegop.org to come and see us tomorrow night in Strongsville. Tom, I'm looking forward to that tomorrow night, and thanks for coming on today. We always appreciate you.
I'm looking forward to it, Bob. I appreciate you, and I hope people are sharing this show and supporting this show. You've done so much good work for so many years, and as you've kind of moved into the podcast space, It's critical that people support and follow you and get the word out.
We're trying to let them know. Yeah, we're trying to let them know, Tom. It's a tough thing. It's a very crowded space, obviously. And when the algorithms haven't found you yet and pushed you out yet, it's all grassroots, which is what we're trying to do here is let people, tell people to share on their contact lists and so on and so forth. But your massive following that you have built plays a huge role in that too. So the more we can get out there with your folks, the bigger we'll be and the more impactful we'll be, because you and I are fighting on the same side together, and your support is crucial to that. So I really appreciate it, Tom.
Well, I'm happy to give, you supported me at the beginning. I'm happy to support you with whatever I got. We wouldn't have been able to get the word out on some of the COVID stuff without you and some of the things that you did for us. So I'm grateful for that. I don't forget my friends. So, I mean, I look forward to sending me over the link to this, and we'll get it out there on Twitter and everywhere else, and
count on
tell everybody to make sure they're supporting you.
You got it. Count on it. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Tom Renz, tremendous guy and doing tremendous work in the name of freedom. Some other people I want to tell you about who are doing tremendous work, including my friend Mark King. Mark King, everybody. He's the Medicare guy. He's the Keeping Medicare Simple guy, online at keepingmedicaresimple.com. He was the first guy in to be a foundational sponsor of this program, by the way. Ever since I came into the podcast space in January, so we're just about 4 months in now. My friend Mark King was the first one in to say, because he was advertising with me and I was sending people to him for Medicare needs on the radio side. He was livid when things went down the way they went down. He said, I'm going to follow you and sponsor you here. And he is. And boy, oh boy, I'm so glad. And so are so many people that are hearing about Mark King for the first time. Now, because they're getting great service when it comes to Medicare. And there are a lot of questions from the complex Medicare system, from Parts A to Part B to Part D, prescription drug coverage, other benefits you may get. What are the costs? What's the difference between one insurance company's Medicare plan and another insurance company's Medicare plan? You can drive yourself crazy trying to figure it out. That's why you call Mark, because he can do it for you very simply, hence the name. For nearly 40 years, he's been keeping Medicare simple in Northeast Ohio. So if you're turning 65, you're retiring, you're aging into Medicare for the first time, call Mark. And it doesn't have to be just during the enrollment periods. Call Mark anytime at 440-832-8936. He'll help find the right plan for you. Make sure that you're saving money. Make sure that you're getting the best benefits. You're not leaving anything on the table that you're entitled to. That's why I found through many, many senior citizens who are on Medicare that, well, we can trust Mark King. And I know that you can too. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for today. Oh, wait a minute. No, it isn't. I've got another guy that I trust that I forgot to tell you about. He just came on board last week as a foundational sponsor of Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. And he's the guy, after Mark King gets you set up on your Medicare, he's the guy you go to fix the knock and the ping that's in your engine. And of course, I'm talking about the politically incorrect mechanic, Charlie of Charlie's Auto Repair in Lakewood. This is the guy that, there might be a lot of guys who can fix your car, but there aren't a whole lot of guys who can fix your car and not rip you off. Sad reality is so many garages trust that you don't know anything about your engine. And they will try to tell you need to replace this, that, and the other thing. And those things might be perfectly good. And then they're going to come out from behind the wall and say, look at how bad your X was. And it's just their standard prop. That wasn't yours at all. Now look at how good this one is. It's a sad game. It's a sad racket, but there are a lot of really dishonest mechanics. That's why you got to go to one you can trust. I'm telling you, you can trust Charlie. And if you can trust me and have for years and years and years you've been listening, then trust me on this. Charlie's Auto Repair in Lakewood, 216-470-0170 is the phone number to call. Take your car in for routine maintenance or take it in for that knock or ping or that electronic issue. He's a master at fixing electronics issues. Cars are like computers now. But anything that you've got going on, if you failed an e-check, take it to Charlie. He'll get you compliant. All right. 216-470-0170. He will not upcharge you. In fact, he'll discount you, especially if you are a first responder, if you are an active or a veteran of the U.S. military, or if you're a concealed carry holder. All right. If you're a concealed carry license holder, you get 10% off. All of those people get 10% off. So Charlie is all about saving you money and fixing your car, not ripping you off. That's what a patriot does. And that's why you got to let Charlie Kalani make your car great again. Charlie's Auto Repair in Lakewood. All right, that is going to do it now as we go ahead and try to vibe our way out of here on this Wednesday. Great conversations today with my friend Mark Sutherland from the UK, who happened to be on our side of the pond right now, but that worked out well. And thanks to, of course, Tom Renz for a very, very important discussion. A lot of really, I think you're going to see bits and pieces of that. We're going to have to post some shorts on that because Tom had some really, really good stuff to say. Don't forget, see us tomorrow night in Strongsville. Go to strongsvillegop.org for that event on stage tomorrow. All right, everybody in the chat, thank you guys. Appreciate you all very much. What does that say, Big Jake? Charlie's address on Madison is wrong on that graphic? I just looked at the chat. I hope that's not true. If I got a typo there, that's on me. I'll punch it in and I'll make sure that graphic looks better tomorrow if that's not correct. But what is most important is the phone number. That's the number you call to reach Charlie, and he'll tell you exactly where he is. Okay, everybody. As always, be well, be safe, stay free. Hit the notification button so you know when I'm dropping new content, because like I said, I'm going to be posting shorts. You've also got to follow me on all the other social media platforms. 35,000 people are following the Facebook page now, up from 3,000 just 3 months ago, which is incredible. Same thing on TikTok, same thing on Instagram, same thing on X, same thing on Facebook. Make sure you follow me on those places. I'll be posting clips of interviews like the one we just did so that you can make sure that you share those with other people too. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. We are out of here. We'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. Bye-bye.